All right, we are back for this week's lessons learned for our security awareness community. And I'm really excited this week to kind of take a different perspective and hosting Elisa Hughes, who is the Director of Thought Leadership for a social media agency called Social Media. Elisa, thank you so much for joining me this week
Thanks
and
so much
bringing
for
your
having me. Sorry to
and
cut you
yes, I know. I'm really excited. Elise is also a good friend, so this is really fun to
Yeah.
host her. But Elisa, please just introduce yourself a little bit with your background, and then we'll go into defining thought leadership and why on the earth I think it applies to security awareness managers. So,
Awesome. Thanks again for having me, Ayelet. I'm so excited to be here and share some of what I've learned only in the last few years. I really only got into social media a few years ago, but I love it. It makes sense to me as people talking to people. I love networking and talking to people, so it's just a fun thing to do. And specifically at social media, I am, like you said, the director of thought leadership. That means I lead a team of people who work with stakeholders on their LinkedIn and Twitter profiles, helping them optimize their messaging, getting themselves out there, networking, making it seem not in a, in a sketchy way or anything like that, but working with them on their profiles because oftentimes these CEOs and other upper level management people and even less are very busy and they don't have time to do it. But the more that you show up on these platforms, the more you can be seen as a quote unquote thought leader, which is just really a fancy way of saying an expert in your field. And there are best practices for how to do that, which we work with people on how to do that. But the more that you show up on these platforms and the more that you share your knowledge and your expertise and everything that you've learned along the way, the more you can grow your own following, which is obviously a benefit, but the more you can actually bring more visibility and credibility to your company also. So it's really a rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing where you yourself are getting more visibility, credibility, authenticity. People are following you because you're a person and people like to follow people, but also it brings all of those things to your company. And it's a win-win basically.
I think that is so critical. Why? And the whole reason, to kind of reframe is, you know, with thought leadership, like you said, you're kind of making yourself the address, right, for questions, for
Yes.
concerns, for curiosity, and that's exactly, in my opinion, what a security awareness manager does and is for their community of people, which is their organization, right? So,
Right.
and it's not just, and they can definitely use it for LinkedIn and Twitter, right? Why not? They're kind of building their own professional brand there too. But internally, one of the things that we talk about with security awareness managers is how, you know to build a security culture, like a culture of awareness within your organization, it's got to be a constant conversation. And,
Yes.
so if awareness managers can view themselves as being thought leaders and using some of the tips and ideas, of those best practices, I think that can help them in their goal of, creating more awareness and also creating that personable approachability, right?
Yes.
As a
100%.
security manager or as the security team, that
Yeah.
people will know where to come and where to go, and they won't feel embarrassed or uncertain or if they have a concern. So that's kind of our goal here. So
Yeah.
when you usually start working with a community or individuals, like what are some of the broad topics that are tips or approaches that you um, instill or implement with them?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the first thing I actually want to go back to something that you just said, basically, though, is that we don't only work with people and companies on a marketing basis, but actually it can be used also for internal communications. And people want to be seen broader within their own companies, and this is an amazing tool to do that. So what is it that people want to be doing? They want to be seen as the experts, like you said. They want to become the address for the answer to this question. And sometimes it's a question that people don't even realize that they have, right? So they don't even know the question that they're having. And then they certainly don't know the address for where they're going to go with that question. So by being somebody who is out there and addressing those questions that we didn't even realize were questions before people even realized that they were thinking about them, you're already getting into people's like the back of their consciousness, right? And you're going to start dripping all this information out in a non-threatening, non-aggressive way. You're just kind of going to be like standing there and talking about these issues as people almost like walk by. I say that how people act on LinkedIn is really how you should act at a conference, right? So like, you might be kind of like standing at a booth and kind of like spewing your information as people walk by, and they're going to take notice. They're going to say, oh, this person, over here at this booth, they're talking about security awareness. And, as they continue walking around the floor, for example, and they start seeing more and more about security awareness, they're going to remember that you were talking about it. So practically, how do you actually get yourself out there? So my expertise obviously is LinkedIn and Twitter, and I can talk to those things. And I would say that the first thing to do is to start writing posts. And the more that you can write posts on really any topic that has to do with security awareness, it doesn't have to be anything that's specific about your company or the specific issues that your company has, but topics in general about security awareness, just like I said, so that you're starting to drip information at people and they start to see you as the person to go to if they ever have a security awareness question. Now, I know to say to people who are new at posting, just post about security awareness, not helpful. They're like, I don't know what that means. So I can break it down into like what that actually means. So thought leadership, again, it's just a way of saying that you have an idea that you're going to lead with, right? You have an idea about security awareness, and you have an idea about how to protect a certain element of the cyber or in the IT within your company. I mean, we have a lot of actually cybersecurity clients, and I don't know the technical language, but I know that there's 100,000 pieces that need to work in conjunction with each other and in place to make sure that there are zero holes, right? So pick one of those things that you work on a daily basis and say, there's this thing and this is how we fix it. There's this other thing and this is how we fix it. It can be just anything that you come across in your daily job that you think is something that other people are coming across. They definitely are, right? So you just start kind of putting out this information. Now, sometimes it's hard for people to, what do I have to say that's so important? Like I'm sure somebody else is talking about it. Yes, somebody else actually is talking about it. So if you don't have I hate to say confidence, because confidence comes from within, but if you don't feel like what you have to say is authoritative enough, Google it. We had this issue about this one vulnerability. It's out there. Somebody else has written about it also. And you can take what they've written about it, add your own 2 cents, and then post about it. And then at least you're still being seen as somebody who is talking about this issue. You just want to make sure that you're the person talking about this issue. You want to get to the front of the line. You want to be leading on this issue, and you want to make sure that you're getting your voice out there.
Right. That's a good tip. And that's something I use when I'm kind of giving people feedback on getting started as well, is just curate content for others, but add your 2 cents. Why did you think this was important? Why did you think it was relevant? So to turn that, for awareness managers, it can be, was there a big breach in the news that, people are watching and seeing about? So, put that link out there and then say how it can apply to you, to your team personally, if it's internal channels, right? Or, if it's your external, then just putting those, bring it home to just one point. And I think that's one thing where we can get, and I'm very guilty of this myself, because I'm so excited about security awareness. And I'm like, oh, you need to know all this stuff. And then it's overwhelmed, right? So it's like remembering that with the messaging, just talk to one person and one topic, and just stay really hyper focused, even though the issue is much broader than that. Just hone in on one topic, and
Absolutely.
that, then you've got content, right? It doesn't always have to be your own unique content all the time.
Right. And each time that you post, like you're saying, like make sure that it's super, super focused. But overall, in all your different posts, you can post about 100 different topics. But if you try to mush them all into one post or one idea, you're gonna lose people.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's that's one of the challenges is for the regular user who's not so aware, like just little bite-sized pieces. And that's part of the reason why there's also this shift happening right now in awareness training, is making it more bite sized and broken up and more often, as opposed to one yearly training of, mind numbing content for an hour, and it's not effective, And the
Right.
whole point of awareness is we need it to be effective. We need people
Yeah.
to take action and to adopt. So,
Yeah.
um, okay. So, is there like a particular schedule that you recommend people doing? Do you think might be helpful? I know I like to work from a framework. I like structure. Some people are very good at just on the, by the seat of their pants. But for those of
Right.
us who like structure, do you have anything to recommend to help people get started?
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea to try to block out time in your calendar. Let's say an hour a week to pull, research a couple different articles, think of all the things that you went through during that week, that might have become ideas that you could post about, or even keep like a running tab. Like I keep keep an email open to myself in my email where I like write thoughts to myself. I found it to be the most effective. But I'm sure people,
I
write
love it.
notes on your computer
Yeah.
or whatever it is, where you just keep like a stream of thought thing going. I also have a WhatsApp group to myself. I have a lot of different places where I keep my own notes. But keep these ideas, so then later when you have this structured time where you can then come back to all those ideas, write them out into posts, and then schedule them. You can't actually schedule posts on LinkedIn the way you can do on other platforms, but make yourself a calendar. Schedule actually in your whatever calendar you use. We use Google Calendar. In your Google Calendar on Mondays at 10 o'clock that you're going to post, and put the post into that calendar invite so that it's right there. You go into the calendar invite, you copy and paste the post, and you post it.
Yeah. That's a great
And I
idea.
find that that's when you give people, like you said, when you give people structure, it's really easy. And it doesn't even matter how often you post, really, almost as long as you stay on this like consistent basis. And I found that for most people that we work with, one post a week is really a great place to start, because it's like a little bit of a push. People get like a little nervous, but it's infrequently enough that you're not stressing about it the whole entire week. And if you can
Right.
set this kind of schedule where you, in an hour, if you can write 3 posts, then you only have to think about it once, tops twice a month, and then you're good to go. And then, the more that you can get yourself out there on a consistent basis, the more that people will start to see you as this constant in their feeds, and in their lives, and they'll know that they can come to you because you're active, and then they can approach you on these topics.
I think that is really, so it sounds so simple, but sometimes we just need the reminder. We need it broken down,
Yeah.
especially, for cyber professionals who are busy, 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 with 1,000 things coming at them all the time. And I think that actually that rhythm of once a week is very attainable, and actually a really good rhythm of not overwhelming, right, the people who are also working, because, like I was telling you earlier before the broadcast, they don't want to be seen as like the nagging parent,
Right.
brush your teeth and, go to bed and turn off the lights and shut the door and whatever,
Yeah.
So, it's this balance that we constantly have to keep in mind in working with people, especially when you're giving them a lot of do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's one of the kind of challenges and things that you have to keep top of mind.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you spend time like over the course of the week kind of writing down these ideas that you're like, oh, this is going to be a great idea. This is going to be a great idea. But when you come back to them later, you actually like, oh, this one's not such a great idea, or this one's not such a great idea. But you still have a bank of ideas that you can put out. And
right,
we were also talking about before how this is not social media is most of these people's not full-time job, I imagine. But
right,
also being the security awareness manager is not their full-time job either. So
exactly,
you want to make sure that you're not overthinking the writing and not making it too technical. And I think a lot of people struggle in that, like, you're sitting down for an hour and you like feel the pressure of the time, that like, oh,
right,
every word has to be perfect and it has to sound like really professional, and like, it has to be the
right,
best post ever. No, please don't do that. Write the way you would speak, pretend like you're actually talking to somebody on your team, and just write those words. Fix it up a little
right,
bit, make it like grammatically correct. I'm a little bit of a stickler for that, but like, don't overthink it. Just write it the way you would say it. And that's the
mhm,
way that, however you would communicate it to a person like this, communicate it in writing, because that's the way that they're going to be able to read it and have it actually make the most sense to them.
right. So I think that's a great tip. We have a question from Stephen. Stephen,
Oh,
thank you.
that's good.
How long should a post be, or what's the best type of post? Example,
Oh,
like video, text, meme, right?
oh, I love that. So first of all, a post should only be as long as it takes you to make your point, Get in, get out, don't make it too long. People are really lazy, sorry to say it. They'll only read until they get bored. So get in, get out, say it quickly. People also, when we read, we like a lot of white space. So instead of writing like one long paragraph, try to break up your paragraphs into shorter paragraphs, shorter sentences. That makes it really easy to read. And people love videos. So if you're going to post a video, please always add subtitles because people don't listen with sound. But whatever it is that you can do to actually make the post a little bit more appealing, first, so that we stop scrolling, right? Because we're like robots. We keep scrolling until something catches our eye. But then once you've caught their eye, keep it interesting so that they actually stick around to the end. So, if it's going to be a video or if it's going to even be like a carousel, something for them to flip through, same idea of keeping it as short as and focused as possible. But yeah, all these different types of visuals that we can add to posts are amazing. And by mixing them up, you're going to keep the algorithm happy and you're going to keep your audience happy and you're going to make it so that people are like interested and actually want to see what post you're going to do next. So feel free to play around with it, but make it feel like you. So if you don't feel comfortable talking on a video, you can always do images and carousels and, do these where you screenshot like a tweet or something like that. Whatever it is that feels good for you, you can do any of those things.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. Um, again, using resources also that are already out there, because there are a lot of security sites out there that have free resources that are downloadable. Wizer being one
Yes,
address,
of
the
course.
little quick plug. But even Sans has even some downloadable stuff for work from home, right? And you can upload these to your post to make them more multimedia friendly without you having to
Yeah.
do all the work.
Yeah.
And that's a good way too to also mix it up. Um, and I wanted to go to one tip on about LinkedIn that our audience may not be aware of is, if you do post as a security awareness manager to LinkedIn and you increase your visibility there, your employees who are connected to you because you both work at the same company are going to be seeing your posts more too. So it's
Yes.
like this kind of subliminal messaging. You can get to them without feeling like they're being like nagged all the time.
Yeah.
So that's just another like bonus really, of considering LinkedIn as part of your awareness messaging,
Yeah.
that they may not be aware of. And if your marketing team uses LinkedIn, employee advocacy, you could even communicate with them, and maybe your post could be recommended to the employees as well.
Right.
So
Yes.
that's another tip for you, you know to again, security teams to
Yes.
consider. Go talk to your marketing team and see if they're using that tool on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and that can also help kind of increase some visibility without seeming like you're being pushed on people.
100%. Engaging with people on LinkedIn is actually can be used as an amazing internal communications tool. Feel free to connect with everybody in your company and also engage with their posts, because the more you engage with their posts, the more they're likely to see your posts in their feed. And then you're both raising your visibility internally, but in addition to externally. And it's really a win-win. Like you can't lose. But if but since the algorithm can be a little bit finicky and you don't always know if everyone who you want to see your post is going to see your post, you can also just take that post and share the link to it in whatever internal communication tools you have, whether you're using Slack or we use WhatsApp, or even send an email.
Right.
Hey everyone, hey everybody. I wrote this email about. I wrote. Anyway, I wrote this post about this issue that we had recently, or that another similar company had recently, and this is how they fixed it, and I wanted you to become aware of it. There's no shame in getting in front of people's faces. As long, like you said, as long as it's not nagging or anything like that. But the point is that you do want to get in front of them because you do want your
Right.
messages to be heard, and you want to make sure that they're seeing them and that they're internalizing those messages.
Right. Oh, I think that's another good point. So with security, so when you come and you do thought leadership training, what other tips or tools do you encourage people to consider that might be, applicable also for awareness managers?
Well, I always suggest that people connect with other people in similar positions to them, because you never know what sort of inspirations you're going to get from them. And, I don't like to say that it's like stealing posts or anything like that, but somebody else might have like a really great idea that could be really applicable to you. So, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and whatever platform it is that you're on, connect to as many people in your industry as you can. Really start following them, engaging with them. I'm sure there are communities for security awareness managers. That's what we have here, right? Everybody
Yes.
here should be connected to each other, and, commenting on each other's posts, and just getting out there, like as if you were at a security awareness conference, and
Right.
you were trying to connect with everybody that you can. Find the big thought leaders, because they're gonna really like lead the way and give you ideas for how to get your messages out there. And don't be shy. People love helping each other in these sort of industries, I'm sure. And on LinkedIn, find other people that you just find interesting on the platform, and kind of like mimic what they're doing so that it's specific to you. um, it's really, I find LinkedIn to be an incredibly supportive place. And maybe that's just because I surround myself with like-minded people. But it's like, whenever anybody writes to me asking questions, I try to help as much as I can. And I'm sure that it's true across the security awareness. Like, I mean, that's the point, right? You guys are there to help each other against a common enemy.
Right. No, no, it's really true. And it really is. Even this cyber community also is just so supportive and collaborative. And that's a great point. Is just connecting with other people in the security awareness realm, see
Yeah,
what they're doing, and then adjust it to fit your company needs. Right? Because there is no you know one size fits all awareness program, because
right.
there's such differences and nuances across different industries and company sizes and
Yeah,
needs. But it can spur those ideas, right? And it can give you
yeah,
extra ideas to work from.
yeah.
So that, yeah, that is a great idea also.
I'd
um,
also suggest, because we are talking about social media, feel free to utilize hashtags. Search hashtags that you think are
right,
relevant
right,
to your industry, anything from security awareness and cybersecurity and all those things, both to find people to connect with and to find ideas of things to post. We don't recommend what's called sharing other people's posts, because the algorithm doesn't like it. But if that's what you need to do to just get yourself comfortable with clicking the post button, then absolutely, do whatever it is that you need to do to get yourself comfortable with getting your voice out there. And with most of the people that we work with, like I said, like just starting posting and like getting comfortable with like being a voice is really, it's
right.
difficult for people. You and I talked
It is.
about before this how both of us are new to this, putting
Yes.
ourselves out there thing. But the more you do it, like it's true, the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it. And then you stop obsessing about, the wording and the great,
Right.
all the little things. And you really start being able to see the big picture and also the benefits. I mean, like if you can stay on a consistent posting basis, you're going to start seeing that people are responding in a positive way. You're going to grow your network, and you're really going to be able to feel that the growth of your leadership.